OpenAI is moving away from its nonprofit structure next year. 23andMe will pay $30 million to settle its 2023 data breach lawsuit. And iPads will support third-party app stores in Europe starting today. It's Monday, September 16th, and this is Engadget News. Sam Altman has told OpenAI staff members during their weekly meeting that the company is changing its rather convoluted nonprofit corporate structure next year. That's according to Fortune. The CEO said OpenAI will move away from being controlled by a nonprofit entity and will transition into a more traditional for-profit organization. He didn't delve into the specifics of how the company will achieve that goal and what OpenAI's corporate structure will look like exactly. A spokesperson only told Fortune that it remains focused on building AI that benefits everyone and that nonprofit is core to its mission and will continue to exist. OpenAI started as a nonprofit organization in 2015 that relied on money from donors. In a page explaining its structure, it said that it only raised $130.5 million in total donations over the years, which it says made it clear that donations alone would not scale with the cost of computational power and talent required to push its core research forward. The then purely nonprofit organization created a for-profit subsidiary in order to solve that problem. As Fortune explains, OpenAI's nonprofit entity currently controls its for-profit arm, which in turn controls a holding company that takes investments from companies like Microsoft. Under this structure, the profit that can be allocated to investors, including Microsoft, has a cap. Anything OpenAI makes beyond the cap will go to its nonprofit division. And the company's revenue is booming, according to a report by The Information published in June. OpenAI reportedly doubled its annualized revenue in the first half of the year, thanks to the subscription version of ChatGPT. 23andMe is close to settling a proposed class action lawsuit filed against the company over a data breach that compromised 6.9 million users' information. According to the preliminary settlement filing, the DNA testing company has agreed to pay $30 million to affected customers, as well as to conduct annual computer scans and cybersecurity audits for 3 years. A website will be built to notify people eligible to a portion of the settlement fund and to facilitate payments. Affected users will also be sent a link where they can delete all their information from the service, and they'll be able to enroll to a 3-year privacy and medical shield plus genetic monitoring program for free. A judge still has to approve those terms. In October of 2023, the company admitted that the DNA relatives profile information of roughly 5.5 million customers and the family tree profile information of 1.4 million DNA relative participants had been leaked. It later revealed in a legal filing that the bad actors started breaking into customer accounts in late April of 2023 and that they had access to its systems until September of that year. It said that the hackers used a technique called credential stuffing, which uses previously compromised login credentials to access customer accounts. The breach led to several class action lawsuits filed against the company, including one that accused 23andMe of failing to notify the plaintiffs that they were specifically targeted for having Chinese and Ashkenazi Jewish heritage. In the settlement agreement for the consolidated lawsuit, 23andMe noted that it denies the claims and allegations set forth in the complaint and that it denies that it failed to properly protect the personal information of its consumers and users. According to Reuters, 23andMe describes its financial condition as extremely uncertain. In its financial report for this fiscal year, it revealed that it earned a total revenue of $220 million, down 27% from a $299 million revenue the year before. A huge chunk of the settlement money will come from cyber insurance, though, which the company expects to cover $25 million out of the $30 million total. Apple has revealed it will allow iPad users in the EU to install third-party app stores on their tablets without having to sideload them starting today. You'll need to install iPad OS 18, which will be available broadly today to do so. Back in April, the European Commission designated iPad OS as a core platform service, meaning that, like iOS, the App Store, and Safari, the operating system is subject to stricter rules under the Bloc's Digital Markets Act. As TechCrunch notes, Apple had 6 months to update iPad OS so that it complied with the DMA, which included opening up the platform to third-party app marketplaces. Epic Games has already pledged to bring its app marketplace to iPad OS, meaning that folks in the EU should be able to play Fortnite and Fall Guys natively on compatible iPads in the near future. Several other third-party app stores have arrived on iOS in the EU since Apple added official support in March. While the likes of Alt Store Pal and the Epic Game Store aren't subject to Apple's usual app review policies, the company notarizes them for security purposes. The developers of third-party app marketplaces also need to pay a core technology fee to Apple once they meet certain thresholds. The EU opened an investigation into this fee in March. One other key change coming to iPads with the rollout of iPad OS 18 is under the surface, but one that may ultimately change how EU users browse the web on their iPads. Apple will allow third-party browsers to use their own engines on iPad OS instead of having to employ its own WebKit. This means that the likes of Mozilla and Google will be able to offer iPad versions of Firefox and Chrome that run on their own tech. Thanks for listening. There's more to these stories and additional articles at Engadget.com. This episode featured journalism from contributors Mariella Moon and Chris Holt and was voiced and produced from the sound studios of Spoken Layer. Enjoy your day, and I'll be back tomorrow with more tech news from Engadget.